to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My chair is
Well, good evening. We have a full agenda this evening, so I want to start out with correspondence and comments from the public. Mr. Secretary.
Yes, we have correspondence, Mr. President, from the members and passing of James.
Comments from the public. All right, seeing none. Let me turn it to Lauren Ezzo for the student representative report.
Okay, thank you. Raya has been a very busy place. They just completed their Kindness Committee Warm Fuzzy event. This was a week where positive notes were written and delivered to the students and staff. The 5th grade participated in the pig lung dissection this past week. Thank you to all the parent volunteers that helped with this activity. This week they are also having the goal-setting conferences at Raya for the second part of the year. Soon it will be time for the spring book fair. At the high school, Cody Little is a finalist for the National Achievement Scholarship Award, so congratulations to him. Class meetings will be held on February 9th and 10th, Jazz Night is February 20th, and a crisis drill will be scheduled for February 17th. The talent show is scheduled for February 26th after the basketball game. And those are all the announcements.
Good, thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Turn now to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Fowler. Just a reminder to the community that the annual school election will be held on May 4th, 2010. There will be 2 four-year terms open on the Hazlet Board of Education. The term runs from July 1st, 2010 through June 30th, 2014. Mr. Frank and Mr. Tim announced at the January 25th, 2010 board meeting that they will be seeking re-election. The deadline for filing nomination petitions or the $100 filing fee is February 9th at 4:00 p.m. with the Meridian Township's clerk's office. So, and then I'd like to just thank the community for participating in our recent school survey. We had sent out a survey last week and asked to have it returned this last Wednesday. We had over 950 parents respond to this survey, or about 63% of our community. So I'm very, very thankful to the community for participating in this survey. This information will help us as we move forward in these challenging times. As of tonight, we anticipate sharing this survey with the community at our next board meeting in 2 weeks. And beyond that, we will have the survey online for people to look at, and we will be sharing it at our forums that we have scheduled throughout the next few months. So, and that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Duda. We're going to move on to our discussion item this evening. On the agenda is the Hazlet Public Library proposal, and we have several presentations this evening related to this. I'm going to turn it first to Jerry Richards. And,
is this the right place to be?
that is the right place.
Okay. Good evening, school board members and audience. Very pleased to be here tonight. These are exciting times as we explore good possibilities for expanding library facilities in Meridian Township, and particularly in Hazlet, the Hazlet branch. Superintendent Duda suggested that I give the board an overview of how this project came about and some of the key points that go along with it. And so I'll be first, and then as the agenda says, you will hear from the architects who we're about to hire, and also from our fundraising group, and certainly last but not least from the head librarian here at our Hazlet branch. Well, but it was probably about a year ago when I first started receiving phone calls, and I have to admit that I was taken back the first time I got a phone call saying, gee, I've got a great idea about expanding library facilities in the Hazlet area for the Hazlet Branch Library. And actually, my memory is good but short. I don't remember who the first call was. But I did receive several calls from residents suggesting that the Meridian High School facility would make a great location for the Hazlet, for the Hazlet Public Library site of the Capital Area District Library. And basically at the time, I said, okay, it sounds like there's a lot of support, but let's take this a little bit slow here. I first have to be brought up to speed in the township, and also that I recognized right away that if this was going to happen, it really was going to take three parties to work together on this. Obviously, the Hazlet Public Schools who own the facility, the district library, who provides the facility, the personnel and staff and books and other things, and then, of course, Meridian Township, which we were going to be a partner in this too. In terms of responsibilities, I want to take just a minute to explain that Meridian Township, as well as most all of the units of government in Ingham County, are part of the Capital Area District Library. The only governmental unit that isn't is the City of East Lansing. They have their own library system and run that separately. And the rest of the governmental units, the townships and the City of Lansing, all are part of the Capital Area District Library. And so we pay, all of us pay property taxes specifically dedicated to providing library services. The district library takes those monies and provides for the personnel, the books, and the information technology components of each of their libraries. The townships, including Meridian Township, are responsible for providing the facilities. So the current location on School Street for the Hazlet Library is owned by Meridian Township. We are responsible for providing the facilities. So it will be our responsibility to make the facilities, assuming that we can bring this to a conclusion, to make sure the facilities are suitable for running of the district library. The first thing that I did after receiving the phone call was call Mike Duda. And Superintendent Duda explained that, yes, the library, the Meridian High School facility was available, and no, they didn't have anything specifically earmarked for the facility at the time. So that led me to then start talking with the district library folks, and we had several meetings, of which the staff of Hazlet Public Schools were very gracious in showing us through the facility. At the same time that I originally made contact, Mike also pointed out that TMP Architects were the folks that designed the building and helped oversee the construction of it, and certainly by walking through the building saw that it was relatively new. So we did arrange for TMP Associates to also sit in on our meetings, and very graciously they came down to the meetings and did several sketches and worked with us at really with no guarantee that there was any work lined up for them. They did it without really asking for compensation to the point where we are today. So that was very helpful, and we're very appreciative of their effort in this so far. All along, the township has received very strong input from Meridian Township residents saying, we really like this idea, we really want to move forward. In terms of how we get to this point, the architects listened to what the district library said was their needs, and kind of looked at the different options of how the facility of the former Meridian High School facility could be laid out. One of the things we saw right up front was that there was probably more space there than we could reasonably use. And so what followed were 5 options that they put together for us, and informally, still sort of behind the scenes, we reviewed those 5 options, and they ranged in price at the time from about $155,000 all the way up to $1.3 million. And there were 5 options. We didn't go with the lowest option because it really wasn't feasible for the library to run a library, leaving pretty much all the walls exactly as they are now in a classroom setup. So we then moved to option 2, which is where we are today in terms of feasibility, and that, at least to this point, we're estimating at something under $400,000, or roughly $400,000. Again, in terms of coordination, I kept the township board informed that I was first looking at this, but also, we really didn't bring it up officially to the township board until November of 2009, and at that time, the township board members were very positive about the concept, but did have some concern about financing 100% of the costs from our fund balance, and certainly, and I know I read the papers and watch the news and know how difficult times are both for public schools and the similar situation is facing local government. So that certainly was a concern. After that meeting in November, I was fortunate to receive a call from a couple of our residents who are here today who said they were interested in forming a citizens group to fundraise for the campaign to raise some monies toward the cost of this project from the township's perspective. So at the second meeting in January, I proposed to our township board that they take 3 actions related to this project, and they were discussed, and again, with unanimous agreement, they took up these motions on February 2nd, which was our first meeting in February. The 3 things that our township board did at our last board meeting was, number 1, to authorize the staff in the township to hire TMP to complete the plans. And so we are reviewing the agreements, and we hope to have that moving forward here in the next week or 2. The second thing that the board approved unanimously was to endorse the fundraising efforts of Melinda Barr, Andy Such, and Bill Goyer as the kind of the leaders of the group, and I know there'll be others working with them. And in the process, amended our 2010 budget, and we added $400,000 to our expense side for this project, and also $100,000 of outside revenue on the revenue side, anticipating that the local citizen group is going to be successful, and I have lots of confidence in them. There are still some outstanding questions. For instance, I've been asked several times, what will happen to the existing branch library location on School Street if we're successful? And at this point, I can say the options are out there. We really don't have a plan for that location. And some of you may know that we do own the house to the north. And in terms of making a commitment at the time that we thought we were going to be expanding in that location, we bought the house for about $83,000, and we currently have rented it pretty much ever since. And so we do have 2 properties there, but at this point, that's really an open question. I guess the other question that I get is what happens if the fundraising group doesn't meet their goal of $100,000? And that's sort of an open question too, but I have lots of faith in their work, and I guess my answer to the news media when they asked me was, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, if we ever have to get there. If everything comes together like we hopefully all expect, and with the cooperation, obviously, of your board, about this time next year, we will be having an open house to show off the new location of the facilities of the relocated Hazlitt branch of the Capital Area District Library. So that's my presentation at this point. Certainly open to try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
A couple. thanks for coming today, and thank you for taking the initiative within the township to see that this comes. I think you'll hear from all of us over the course of the evening. This is something we're excited about, the potential cooperation. We've all been, our families are users of the library. It's been the place, the first sort of outing your kids get to go on their own, on their bikes to the library, and seeing that grow here in Hazlett's a really positive, wonderful thing to see, so thank you. I had a couple questions. One is, can you explain to me, and I'm sorry about my ignorance, but I know with the schools, if you were to donate money to the schools, there are things I can and can't use it for. I can't go use it for teacher salaries, for example, if you want to see me keep a teacher. How is it that something for which the township has responsibility, providing a facility for the library, can be addressed by outside fundraising?
Well,
I mean,
I guess the
it's
short
a
answer would be
different-
we don't have the same limitations that donations can be made to governmental units for specific purposes, and we do receive those from time to time.
And you can do whatever you...
Right, most of the time, they're earmarked, which generally speaking, I would say probably 99.9% of the time, donations that come into the township are for specific purposes. And so this would be the case here. Now, it is, and you'll hear more about the fundraising, but they're using a foundation, and I think their idea is to not only address this particular library need, but look to the future to try to set up a foundation that supports libraries in the future, not only this project, but other projects in Meridian Township. But the short answer is we don't have
You don't have
the same
Okay.
restrictions.
My other question is the one that you've been asked about what happens if the fundraising doesn't happen. I mean, maybe the media can we'll cross that bridge, but if you're going to be asking the school district to enter into an agreement, I don't think cross the bridge will work for us.
Yeah, well, I think realistically speaking, well, I'll step back. Generally, having been a project engineer in one of my past histories of jobs, I tend to like to be high on the cost end and not surprise. So, it's possible the project can come in less than $400,000. We've budgeted $300,000. So one of the possibilities is the project comes in less than $400,000 and the fundraising comes in at less than $100,000. So I think there's definitely we've been told that the contractors and those who would work on this potentially on this type of project, there's not a lot of work out there, so we expect that the project will be competitively bid, and it is certainly maybe not a lot of work, it'd be high-profile work. I think in a lot of ways people are looking for those kinds of projects to be able to say they participated in the community and something that's going to be here for a lot of years. So I would say that that's probably the biggest sort of hedge there, is that it may come in at less than the cost.
So you don't anticipate having to stop work midstream if the fundraising effort weren't going where
Well, one of the things that, in terms of the timeline, that I think works is that, at least from the construction standpoint, is I anticipate that it's going to take several months to get drawings and to get the bid documents ready to go. And by the time it's bid and we get the bids back and we evaluate them, we're probably 6 months down the road. Those 6 months obviously give the fundraising folks an opportunity to fundraise, and we'll have a very good picture as we get closer there how they're doing. Now, again, I know the folks that are involved, and I know that they have plans too, and it isn't just energy, but I know that they have some plans that they haven't necessarily revealed yet, that they would look to hopefully attract donations that would be not only small in amount, but maybe some larger donations that would move the fundraising quickly. So I guess the combination of knowing sort of behind the scenes what they're looking at, and also knowing we have some ability to bring the project in under $400,000, I guess would be my answer.
Other questions?
A couple things. One, just for initial clarification, I had down they had 3 proposals, or 3 items at your January 2nd meeting, but somehow I only ended up with authorizing the hiring of TMP and endorsing the
Right.
fundraising. Was there a third one? that I
Yes, there
missed?
was, and thank you for pointing that out, which I missed. And that's to authorize the staff on the township's part, mainly myself, to negotiate a long-term lease for the space.
That's
And we did start that. In fact, the next morning after the meeting, the superintendent and I met and started talking about the lease, which probably is going to be more complicated than I originally thought. And of course, this is just the whole process of things, because just as they sent me, your staff sent an example that ended up to be 24 pages long. So,
That was the short version.
yeah, so I know, and there are things that have to be covered for sure, but, and we'll work through them for sure. So that's going to take a little bit of time to work through, and as the superintendent has said from almost the beginning, this should be a win-win for everybody involved, and certainly I understand that, and that's what, basically the nuts and bolts of it will be the lease. I mean, that's really where it all shows where the win-win-win comes in to play. So we're going to spend some time looking at that, and I expect that, we'll work things out, assuming we get the go-ahead from your board. But it's going to be a little more challenging than I thought. What?
We'll work through it.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't think it was really going to be easy, did you?
No. Well, yes, but that's okay.
Other questions? Anybody else?
Thank you.
Jerry, thanks. Thanks for coming and laying this out. I look forward to some of the other presentations, but it's an important, you are obviously an important player in this whole thing, and so thanks for being here.
Well, again, my pleasure to be here. I'll stay and listen to the other comments, so if any questions come up. But this truly was a citizen initiative, moving, governments along in this. And, good ideas come from a lot of different places. And, kudos to the folks in the community that saw it, saw an idea and took it. And, all of us are happy to kind of jump on the bandwagon here. Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Our second presentation is from TMP. It's the library renovation proposal, and Gary Jellin. Gary, will you introduce Emily?
Yes, I will. This is Emily Naismith, also from TMP. Emily has been really closely connected with this project. One of the reasons I was connected with the project is that I've been working on the Meridian High School project for many years. Back when, and we're going to pop up a graphic here in a second. Back when part of that building was actually the board offices. For those of you that can remember back that far. Okay, yes, some people raised their hand.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember, this was the board office. When I first got hired with the TMP team to come out to Hazlet back in, I think it was 1988, which is why I always tell Mike that this is my second home as a school district. That was where we met, in this building. And over time, a series of additions were put onto this building to continue to improve it. It became a really great, great building. A lot of tremendous amenities in this building over time. So when we were approached about converting it to a library, a couple things. First, we knew the building very well. Secondly, many of you may not know this, but TMP has other things we do in our office, and one of them happens to be public libraries. We've done some freestanding libraries for a number of townships and cities throughout southeastern Michigan. So we were starting to put the two expertises together now and to take a look at the project. So I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview of the part of the building we're looking at, and then Emily's going to take you a little more specifically into the plans. The area that you see with the red dashed line is essentially the part of the building in our discussions that will become the library. And there were a lot of reasons for that. Some of it was space, it was relationship, it was entry. The large parking lot is here, as you know. So it had a great potential access through the lobby. Some of the spaces up front were pretty ideal to turn into office space for the administration of the library itself. It had some other amenities in it, already had an existing toilet room, and as was mentioned earlier, though, the real issue was we had a lot of classrooms off of a corridor. That does not make a good library per se. So that was part of our first investigation. How could we make it better? And that's really the part that Emily's going to take over right now. Some of our thoughts, some of our thinking processes, the plans that we shared, the sketches back and forth, and a lot of good working relationships all the way along. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily. She's going to take you through a little more detail, and then at the end, feel free to ask us questions, and we can flip back to the plans if you'd like. Okay, Emily.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi. As Jerry had mentioned earlier, it's a little hard to read, isn't it?
Can I put some of these lights off the front? Oops. I don't know which ones are controlling which here. Is that better? Okay, yeah. There we go.
As Jerry had mentioned earlier, we sat down with capital area people and really tried to come up with a plan with this existing building that worked, what adjacencies worked best for them, how their library really functioned currently, and how we could bring the essence of that into this new existing building. So what you're seeing here is the renovation plan. It's pretty much the nuts and bolts of what will happen. So as you can see, these dark orange lines that are dashed will be removed and really start to open these spaces. So these 3 classrooms that were here will become one large adult section. So it really starts to make sense. And same down here at the youth section. This wall will get removed and this will become a large open section for the youth and their stacks and how they can be integrated. And our next challenge, really talking to the library people, were how can we bring both the adult and the youth section together, and how can we integrate that computer area, which they're kind of lacking right now. So we created this computer corridor and started punching openings in these corridor walls, which were load-bearing, and really created that connection between the 2 spaces, creating this private adult section and this open youth section with the computer areas being shared. And just walking in the building, actually, the next plan would be a little easier to read. This would be the finished proposed plan that you're seeing. So again, you would enter through this existing shared lobby space. The existing gymnasium is up top. And then you would enter through, you'd pass by the circulation desk on your left-hand side. There would be an express check on your right-hand side as you're walking through. And again, using that existing admin space, just reusing those offices and creating a circulation and reception area, and really adapting it to fit the library's uses. Reusing these 2 existing office spaces really made sense for the needs that they needed, and creating this large workroom for them for lunch functions, things like that, really gave them a lot of space. And creating this multi-purpose room, which had a lot of existing casework, a sink, so it really becomes a very nice amenity for people who are coming in the library to use this multi-purpose room, also other people in the district. And then as you're walking along through this corridor here, creating this open reading room, which they're lacking a lot of reading space, we heard. So we gave them this large room so the children can really spread out there. And then that's the existing toilet room block that Gary had mentioned earlier. So the toilet rooms they'll be able to use in this library space. And then here you're seeing the essence of the library, the youth and the adult section, and these openings that are in the wall now will create this open space. And then the Friends of the Library were the last component that they really wanted to give them a space for book fairs, things like that, storage. So again, giving them a space so they can provide services. So here you're kind of just seeing an information kiosk when you first enter. And really just information can be posted from the library from the Friends, from the Hazlet Public Schools. And I think the committee, the marketing committee, is going to talk more about some of these ideas later on. And they're also going to talk about how we can create this donor wall and this donor tree adjacent from this reception desk. And this would be your self-checkout, and really creating these synergies between these spaces. And lastly, this would be your corridor with the adult stacks on your left-hand side and your youth section on the right-hand side, and these computer spaces linking the two spaces. Here you're seeing the penetrations in the wall. And they had been talking about creating this Hall of Heroes, so different donors could start to buy banners and really liven up that which used to be a corridor with classrooms, and create this library space. And with that, I think the marketing people would like to share more of their ideas on how to make this possible.
Emily, can you talk about as you look down that corridor there, we're going into community education there. What is the plan for that area?
The plan, here, I'll turn back to maybe the floor plan. It might be easier to talk about that. This existing reception area,
Yes.
he said, there would be an emergency exit here, as long as right here. So really, the library space is its own entity. And this would function as its own unit. Same with this larger portion would also function as its own unit.
So you wouldn't have any access into the library from community?
Correct.
Other than as the emergency?
Yep, the means of
access,
egress. Correct. And that's where this new exit came from, was so this component up here could function and have a means of exit.
Sure.
Is where that comes from.
So I don't know if this is a question for you, or actually for Mike. So how do we, what are we using that gym and weight room for now, and how does that access change with this?
Well, one of the plans that we have talked about was expanding our post-high school program. And if in fact we look at that for the future, we'd have to do something on the north end of the building, up that corridor. You got a pointer there, Emily?
Right here?
Yep. We'd have to do something out that back doorway, which is an exit, and build some kind of a sidewalk to the back lot.
Now, the building extends further.
Yes.
In this picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah,
the
so
gym
here.
is still, isn't the gym still used today?
The gym is, not so much the gym, the weight room is being utilized by some of our community members. And community ed utilizes the gymnasium.
Does Hiram not use the gym now?
Yes.
Hiram does?
I was saying, I think they use it for basketball, don't they?
Yes.
And that's still available.
What's back and to the left of the building there?
That's our technology.
No, not in the building, the outer space.
Bus
there.
garage.
Okay,
Bus garage?
all right.
So we would have to have access to those areas?
If in
Am I
fact,
understanding back by the bus garage?
no,
No.
if in fact we, what are you talking about, Lori?
She's talking about the new exit area.
That new exit
Where
area.
it's,
You
yeah,
can walk around the
if
side,
we're
you can walk
having
around
that
the building
back.
from the
Yes, you
parking
can
lot
walk
there.
that
So
way.
you'd walk
That's
from
an
the parking
emergency
lot
exit
around the
only.
building.
An emergency exit
I'm
only.
just thinking about right now, some of those spaces are still being used, and how is that affected? Even forget what we might do in the long term.
Right.
But how is that used? Can Hira still have their practices, or is that the library going to find, is that
No.
going to be a distraction or a problem?
No, I don't anticipate that right now.
I guess my other sense is that does this not sort of isolate the north part of the building? What you can't, you can get through the gymnasium, but that's impractical. I mean, how do you get to that back hallway in this new layout?
Up at the north, top of the north
There's an
corridor.
emergency exit, there's an emergency exit.
Here,
That's
it's
where I'm
probably going to
talking
be the
about.
primary entrance
Okay.
to this wing. And then we've added a new exterior exit here,
Right.
so that you don't have to pass through the library to exit. Now, that was required, otherwise this would be called a log dead-end corridor, so it wouldn't
Right.
pass the fire marshal.
Right.
But this would be, I think, Mike, am I right? This would be the primary entrance
If
to
in
access
fact
this
we-
side of the building.
Yeah.
so you'd be thinking about putting a sidewalk up
that came
By the
around.
gymnasium,
That's what
I'm wondering around
fitness
there.
room and all the way around.
Right.
It ends right just outside of the gymnasium.
Yes.
Now it does, yeah.
Yeah, currently it
Parking
stops right
lot
in
does,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go a little further.
That makes sense.
That's not that far.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I was trying to.
It isn't, it isn't. I mean, people come, when you don't see an entrance, it doesn't kind of get found easily.
But if we were using that for something, it wouldn't be that hard to make that a noticeable entrance.
Right.
Yeah, if it's down by the TD, between the TD and the
Yeah.
DR, right.
Could you
'Cause that would
put
be
a
right off the
corridor
parking
in
lot.
from the entrance there by the FC across the side of the gymnasium to get in?
Jog it through here.
Yeah.
No, anything's possible. You know, this room, this is the weight room right now. These two rooms were added, this was toddler care, infant care, that was part of the Meridian High School plan. The answer is yes. I mean, if you really wanted to take the space to come in that way.
Is there a restroom up there anywhere in that part of the building?
This is the restroom that services this.
So,
Okay,
no,
now
there is
these
not.
rooms,
Isn't there is a single bathroom?
these rooms have their own restrooms.
Okay, all
Up
right,
here.
that's all I was trying to
Yes.
figure out.
Mhm. And then formally, there's two restrooms here, but this would be used by the library staff in the future. Those are all existing.
Right, no, I wasn't talking about in the
Yeah.
library. I'm trying to see
Right.
if we have usage of that other wing there.
So the two bathrooms as you walk into the lobby of the new library would still be open and used?
Public.
For the gym.
This is
Yeah.
more for the gym, you know.
Okay.
Right now, the library is considering really using these two toilet rooms rather
Right.
than those two. I mean, they're here, it's a
Right.
matter of unlocking a door, but they're right behind that little curved wall, you know, if you're familiar with that lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sit
Yeah.
right behind it.
Yeah.
That's where the information kiosk possibly was shown in front of that as you walked in. So those are still there, we're not touching those, they're available.
See if we want
There's
to
no
use that
access to
wing
that
for
off
our
the
side.
gym through the storage right now.
No. No. Mhm.
There are a set of doors in the west corner of the gymnasium that goes through to that corridor.
Yes, yes.
And actually, they're up here, aren't they?
Yeah, that's
They're not shown on this drawing
Right, you're right.
for some reason, but yeah, they're actually here.
Yeah.
Are there any load-bearing areas being added to compensate for the ones that you're punching the holes through? Are we creating any other limitations in other areas by opening that up?
No, because since we understand the structure of the building quite well, any of those openings that Emily was showing you, they're going to be supported by steel above, and we're transferring the load to the foundation. So, pretty good thing is that it's a one-story building, so there's not a lot of heavy load. We're basically holding the roof up in that case, with, you know, the pitched roof with the high quarter. So, pretty light loads to contend with. So, what's interesting to us is that, although we didn't design this building as a library, it has a future as a library. You know, there's enough flexibility in it that especially the rooms between the classrooms, none of these are load-bearing. So it's really easy to pull those out and make the large spaces that we were showing in the plan. So that was a good decisions back when we made those decisions to allow us to do this.
One thing I'd be interested in as you're going through this, not that funding's available, but if there's anything that makes sense for us to look at doing for our side, while this is all being, you know, torn up and
Right.
worked on, if we're going to need to add, you know, restrooms potentially down the road, and it's much more cost effective to do it while you're doing this stuff, or, you know, things of that nature.
Right.
I think we'd want to hear that from you, whether we do it or not. It would be nice to know what recommendations you might have along it.
Okay. We can definitely work with Mike to talk about that. Yeah. What would make sense?
Could you access the toilet rooms off the lobby through that storage room in the gymnasium?
Could you? You mean?
I mean, you know, since the
Yeah.
gymnasium is our
Well,
space, could
And the
you?
plumbing allows us to put doorways through there.
It could be, yeah, if you get them down here, possibly. You know, the stalls are down in this area.
Right.
Let me go to the other plan. I think it shows the detail of those rooms somewhere. There it is. So that's what's in that toilet room right now. So if you came into this storage room, you'd have to try to punch. Here's where the sinks are. So it could have some tricky dimensional, you know, there's a ladder to the roof here, so probably not easily. I would say that. That would not be an easy thing.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
So next, we'll have Melinda Barr from the Meridian Area Business Association.
Pick a hat, any.
Andy is coming up with you. Andy Such.
I'm going to stay right back here.
He is not coming up with you
Kiwanis Club?
Not mine.
unless you beg him to, I guess.
He's the stuff, I'm the fluff.
Okay.
I like that, Andy. Go ahead, I have to talk from this general area, is that what you're telling me? Okay.
If you want to be on camera, we need you there.
I get enough of that.
You need to.
I'm passing this around. This is a very preliminary, very sketchy plan for the fundraising. As Jerry alluded to, literally as Julie was requesting some local philanthropic efforts, I was texting her, and the very next day, Andy called Jerry, and probably within 48 hours, we had made the connection to come forward and raise money for this. I'm a Hazlet alumni, born and raised here. I own a couple of businesses here. We're residents. I don't have any kids in the school district, but I served on the foundation board for 6 years and do my best to give back to the community, as well does Andy in this market as well. So here we are with this plan. Andy and I are extremely excited, as well as completely confident that the 100 grand will be a snap. I don't have any issues, any problems. We already have people waiting in the wings. We got $2,000 in our pockets already, and no one even knows about it. So I don't see there being a problem with our community stepping up to the pump. We have a URL. That is our website address right there. We do have a post office box. That is our post office box there, and there are 2 contact numbers. That's about as official as it's going to get to this point. This is kind of what we pitched to the Friends as well as to the township, and now we're talking to you. These are the 3 things that Andy and I are going to help the Friends do as well as the community. There's basic things. We're going to educate, generate, and motivate. We're going to educate them on what the need is. We're going to generate the excitement, and then we're going to ask for the sale. These are our goals. We want to raise $100,000, as Jerry said earlier. The real essence here is not only the tri-prong, including the citizens group collaboration, but to really give our community the empowerment to take ownership of this project. It doesn't necessarily have to be just a formal entity that owns this. The community has raised this library to be what it is now, and we want to keep it in that same vein for the next 20 plus years. So moving along from that, here's a list of talking points. This is what it will provide. These are the things that we're telling people, and why if they were if they were living under a rock and they actually asked, why do you need to move? We're going to roll out this big monster of a list. And we truly are going to increase the square footage by a little over three times, right, Ian? Which will take us into the next 20 years of library use. So it's very aggressive as well as beneficial for everybody involved. Lots of different things are going to happen there. We're going to increase the collection, obviously. We're going to have a separate room for youth and children and the adults. The reading room is going to be a tremendous asset. And then one of my favorite parts is the meeting space, multi-purpose room. If you know, this community is starving for community space, starving for that size. And we'll book that out like you won't believe. So the exposure for the library will be getting a whole new level of clients, so to speak. Because the business community uses the current library, they use it as individuals right now. Now they'll have an opportunity to use it as businesses and as groups and as service clubs, and it really brings a whole new entity to the Hazlet neighborhood library. Say it again?
Like they do in East Lansing.
And like we do in Okemos, because we absolutely pack the house in Okemos. You can't get into that room unless you know someone. It's very difficult to get in to that room. So all of those elements will be filtered in. And I've had pretty extensive meetings with Lance Warner and Ann Chapman about business sections and capturing that adult piece that we can really expand on in this new location. The Friends room is, let me tell you, are they excited about that room at all, Ann? I'd say a little bit. Since how they process all the books in the hallway outside the bathroom. This is going to be an incredible opportunity. But from a fundraising standpoint, we're going to do some really cool stuff with that room. All of the current recognition and ownership that we have at the Hazlitt Library right now will be transferred and put on grander display in and outside of the Friends Room. So everybody that is currently recognized in the Hazlitt Library will be transferred to this really cool room that will be exposed to the public on that wall right above it, as well as being able to put the photos and the plaques and everything on the inside. So there'll be a lot of exposure for people that have participated in the past. Tristan's family, namely. We're gonna do a whole bunch of book processing there. We'll have accessible library services for business, adequate parking. If you've ever tried to get into the Hazlitt Library, you usually have to park at the post office and walk. It's much easier than trying to get into that parking lot. Now they're gonna be able to pull up, park in the same lot that the building exists in, and be in and out quicker and be able to use that much more friendly. I know a number of people who struggle to try to get into the library and end up just driving right on by. So now they won't have to do that. Any questions or thoughts at this point? You want to flip over to, Emily showed you a little bit about the front kiosk and the front area. This is a preliminary drawings. These are kind of up close and in person. We fully intend to have the building named. Thank you. Next one. Can you go to the next one? We fully intend to have, there, good right there, to have the building named. So where you see, I'm going to say, Meridian Public Library will actually be your family name here. How about that? It'll be the Duty Family Library, right. It'll be the Fowler Family Library. That will be also what's on the outside of the building. Any other signage that we need to do to comply with directional things on the outside of the building.
That's like $100,000.
For the children, that's the first 150?
That's the first 150 right there.
All right, there you go.
Yep. And so that's our signature piece. We do have a couple of targets that we've actually spoken with that are in the consideration mode for that. So we're fully expecting to have the building named after somebody.
Are the other libraries in the system named after?
Hope Warbus.
I know that one,
Library.
but what about the, is that a
A
common
number of
thing?
them are, yeah. And do you know of any particular?
The downtown library
Yes.
building. I really don't know.
Clarice Rosa. Yeah.
Know about the other
Yeah.
branches.
They're very excited about that and are pretty accepting to just about anybody who's willing to cough it up. So there we have that piece for naming the building. Then you move to that next page that shows the blue banners, and we did see that. That one right there. There's two indicators here. One is the far, let's start with A, that far plaque over there where it says the Clark Family Youth Room, and then underneath that would have the Clark family, a little bit about the Clark family. If we have a Clark family, that'd be great. The Clark family.
Just to pick a name.
Yeah, just pick a name. Your name here, as you see up there, your name, youth room. That'll be indicative of all of the rooms. We're gonna name the reading room, the adult room, the multipurpose room, and the youth room. The Friends are actually gonna raise the money to name their own room so that they have more control over that and what they wanna do with that. They may do a number, we've talked to them a couple of times about doing a number of fundraisers that would include a number of different groups, listing all of them and then coming up with a creative name for the room, or finding someone who wants to donate a large sum, naming it there, and then including the other pieces. So that's an option for all the rooms. In addition to that, we've got the flags or the banners that'll be made out of a fabric kind of thing in the top, and to the right page, right over here where it says your family name, Hall of Heroes, that can also be a company logo. And we have a tremendous amount of targets for those banners as well. Now these are also going to help with the acoustics in this hallway. If you've ever walked in that hallway during a class break, it's really loud, and then you go in the classrooms and it's quiet. Well, with the library, you don't have those. You have sporadic number of people in that hallway in a period of time, maybe having conversation, talking, shuffling books, so that those banners will help with the acoustics as well. So they're not only visibly nice to look at, but they're functional as well. The lighting will stay the same. It works out great for banners because it's indirect and shoots up, so we don't have to change the lighting there in that hallway. It makes it a little bit more cozy down that hallway. We also have, that'll be obviously dubbed the Hall of Heroes, and as you enter the room, look, I stand back here where you enter the room. Okay, as you enter the room, which is like right about here, there'll be a bolster over the door that says you're now entering the Hall of Heroes, so that people take notice of what's up there. In addition to that, we're also talking to a couple of tech companies who are very interested in one supplying software and one supplying computers, so we may name the technical tunnel or the computer corridor somebody's company named corridor. So that is an option for that as well. And we're talking about them doing not only in-kind over the next 3 years, but cash also. So some things will be in-kind, some things will be cash, depending on what our needs are and what people are available, what they want to do. So you saw the kiosk earlier. We talked about this, and boom, there it is. This is a 3-sided, electronically monitored type kiosk. One side would be township information, one side would be school information, and one side would be library information. Across the top, you see there being able to be sponsored. We're thinking that this would be a great opportunity for the Friends to generate regular revenue all through the year. They can do it however they want. They can sell it every month, they can sell it every 6 months, they can sell annual sponsorships. But there would be 3 different sides. They could sell 3 different, they could get one big lump sum for all 3 to be the same, completely in their court. But the nice part about this would be that it would show the 3-legged stool, so to speak, of collaboration from this point on. That all 3 of us are working together to make this building a heck of a community center, like the library. Also, when you walk in the building to the left, there's that glass wall right there that you can see into the school office. As you go around the corner to the circulation desk, you see that dark spot right above Mike there? Mike, use your left hand. Right there. There's fire, what are those? Like water things and fire alarms and all that stuff. And right there in that hallway will be the security kiosk that you have to walk through. So there won't be anything per se on that wall, but maybe a plaque. And we're talking about doing a couple of different types of things. One, a commemorative plaque that talks about the move. How it happened, what the dates were, where we came from, to kind of commemorate the actual move, that the citizens came together, we raised a bunch of money, talk about the collaboration. In addition to that, we're going to do a little storyboard kind of thing about whoever the building is named after, so that that stays in the building as well. So that will probably be displayed on that wall. Now there's a couple different things going on the tree wall there. There's, you see the bricks and then the tree. Those would be separate levels of donor. This wall would allow everything from $50 up to $1,000 donors for this wall. The Hall of Heroes and naming the rooms start at $5,000 and go up. So this would be where the citizens are going to raise their money. This is where the fundraisers are going to come from and be the recognition for everybody that's participated right there on that wall. And then the businesses and the families and the people that come up with $5,000 or more will go down that hallway. Every room that's named, that name will also have a banner. So we've earmarked the 4 rooms to also have a banner, so they get kind of double dip, as well as the building, obviously. So there's a tremendous amount of exposure. How many people do you see a year, Ann?
A year?
Yeah.
About 175,000.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're not individual people, 175 library visits.
Right. That's like having a common ground right there. 100,000 visitors. That's huge for businesses and huge exposure. And it's not a one-time, 1 week, 1 day event. It's up forever.
And that's with our tiny library.
Yeah, exactly.
That's $1 a person for your fundraising.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a pretty good cost. So there's a huge desire for the businesses and the community to step up to this pump. Again, that's why we're confident that 100,000 will be attainable. And then I also included the press release that Andy wrote for our township meeting, just so that you had that in your coffers if you needed it. Any thoughts or ideas or comments?
Is this going out, this fundraising, or this press release?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just have one comment I have to make. Knowing you over the years that I have known you, I think this project is in terrific hands.
Thank you.
And I think it will be very hard for someone to say no.
Yeah, that's not an option.
They are approached. I am glad that you're working with this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a few
It's
questions.
my pleasure. Yeah.
So can you just, there was something I read in the Town Courier, I think,
Yeah, there's been a
that
couple of
talked about the fundraising effort being for both libraries. So was that misrepresentative? What you're doing is solely for the Hazlitt Library?
That's correct. We are setting up a foundation so that when people donate to us, they can write it off, because, oh, hi. Hi, Andy. We're setting up a foundation, a 501c3, through the Lansing Community Regional Foundation. They're going to help us set it up. That's where all the money's going to go. They're going to pay all the bills. And then after the Hazlitt Library has moved to his new location, and it's as big and sparkly as it can be, we turn that foundation over to the Friends. And they determine if they want to keep it as a Meridian Library Project Foundation, or if they want to dissolve it. Completely up to them.
Both Friends groups.
Right.
Not
You
just
turn it
the
over
Hazlitt.
to both Friends
Yes,
groups.
right.
Do they, how do they work together
two
now?
of us,
Do they work
they
together
work
now?
very
Yeah,
closely
very
together.
closely. As a matter
I
of
talked to
fact,
Ann about that.
we
but
had just as
they
many
do.
Okemos Library Friends at the township meeting standing up and writing letters
Right.
as we did Hazlitt Friends. So they're very excited about this, and they get it. Both Friends groups get it. We have to work together. There is no us and them. There has to be a library system. Now, the
But
money
still,
that
if
we're
so-
raising is going to be for the Hazlitt
Okay,
move.
that's right.
And then maybe there's another project after that. Maybe
Right.
Okemos decides they want to paint it blue. Who cares? There's,
They can
That'd
get
be a
somebody else to
system.
raise
That's
that
right.
money.
that's right.
So are you guys donating your time to this
Yes.
effort?
Yes,
we are.
completely. We're going to, the foundation will be set up under the name of Meridian Libraries Foundation. The directors in that initial group will include Melinda and I, somebody from the schools, somebody from the township, somebody from Cattle, and somebody from each Friends group will make up the board of directors.
Okay.
We have made it really clear, we're going to raise the money and we're going to leave it to the professionals to spend it. We don't want to have, we're not saying, well, you got to do this or you got to do that, this wall's got to be blue, we're just making sure that we can provide the recognition that we assure. Want to let you also know that this recognition wall with the blocks is a pattern after the one that's at the Wharton Center. We're really trying to make this extremely tasteful, so even though there's going to be an advertising message there, it's not going to be blatant. We've been very, very careful about working within that framework. We've also talked to all of our partner groups to ask them if they have any objections to any name, you better let us know. We know the decorum, okay? You're not going to get the Deja Vu Library, I don't think. I know for sure you're not. My point is that if there are any objections, we've asked the Cattle folks, are there any restrictions on naming? We've asked the township the same question, and we haven't got any barriers to that. So we're looking for a family that wants to leave a legacy. We're looking for a family that wants to make a legacy investment in the township. We've had questions about, why are you doing this? To raise the money to help finance the library move is part of the reason, but also we think Hazlitt's a tremendous community of people that want to work together, and we want to give them that opportunity to do that. And Melinda's right. We've raised $2,000 by people just coming up and giving us checks. At a meeting here, you can have two $1,000 checks. So we're confident that we can raise it. We think we may even exceed it, and that money we hope will be used to enhance this facility even more, and then later to be used to fund Meridian Library projects in the township.
So, Andy, can I introduce you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sure.
A man who needs no introduction, but actually, as I understand it, you're wearing your hat as the president of the Hazlitt Kiwanis Club.
Kiwanis Club, yes. There was a meeting I missed, and so I became the president.
There you go.
I've heard that story before.
Don missed it the year before.
I was going to say, I've heard that story.
You guys me while I was hospitalized.
That's right. So, but yes, I'm working with we began to talk about this within the Kiwanis Club about things we could do for the community, and that it's one of the areas where this idea kind of sprung from. So, and we're looking to make a sizable commitment to this effort just from the Kiwanis Club. We're also talking to the other service clubs in the community, and we may indeed name one of these areas after all of this, call it the service club, the Hazlitt Meridian Service Club area. So there's a lot of things we're doing. We have a target list of about 85 people, and some of you are even on that list, just to let you know. You may be getting a call. But there's another thing that's very important, and that is that with the Friends group, we've talked to them about doing some coffees in the community. We're going to produce a video that will be available. My brother has been recruited to do that as a volunteer. He wasn't reluctant at all, you can be sure of that. But we're going to do that, and those of you who know me know I have a television background and a production background, so we'll be doing that. And Cattle has generously donated the film that my brother shot from as such video under contract to Cattle, and so they've given us use of that material that we have, and there's a lot of interviews there with folks from Hazlitt. There's a lot of B-roll, books, crowded, et cetera, et cetera. I want to show the need. It's very, very short, 2 to 3 minutes, but a DVD that'll be available for people to have in the living rooms where they do coffees. We're talking to community groups, church groups, anybody that'll have a meeting that is meeting somewhere in the township. We want to show up and talk to them about what we're doing because we want to give everybody an opportunity. We will be providing, as Melinda said, providing recognition to everybody who contributes more than $50. So this is not an elitist thing at all. It's designed to get the community involved. And all those little blocks, you'll be able to read them. Those little leaves on the tree, you'll be able to read them. We think that's very, very important to get that kind of work going. And when we met with the Friends, they had all kinds of ideas. Well, can we do a bake sale? Can we do this? Can we do that? We've already had the Helping Hands group step forward. They're going to do a fundraiser coming up in April. April 30th. And
the Spelling Bowl is the
Spelling Bowl.
We're the benefactor for the Spelling Bowl.
With the proceeds going to the library. So there's the library move. And I will tell you, I was being very politically correct and had originally called it the Meridian Library Move or the Meridian Library Project. And the Friends convinced the two of us that they wanted to return to the Hazlitt name. And so I'd already nailed down the URLs because I nailed them all down. But so we have HazlittLibraryMove.com, and that'll be the website. As soon as I get it done, I'm working on it right now. It should be done by the end of the week. We are going to have a kickoff for the fundraising effort. We're looking at the Bluegill Grill of middle of April. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it'll probably be a Saturday or Sunday event just to get the community together. By that time, we should be able to announce a few of the rooms that have already been spoken for, we hope. And but also the idea is to get the community involved in it. And we think that's extremely important. And we think it's going to be a great asset to the educational campus, so to speak. And I do want to remind you that your high school librarian showed up at the township meeting and gave some very, very powerful testimony, pointing out that they've stretched the hours at the high school library as long as they could. This will now provide them with longer hours in an area for weekends, et cetera, et cetera. So we're really encouraged by the response that we've gotten in the community.
And we're really comfortable with the timeline. I know Jerry alluded a little bit to the extensive process it takes for bids and plans and all of that kind of stuff, but we don't want this to turn around in 6 months. We got to have a little bit of time to get our feet under us and get moving and get enough people to participate. We don't want it to be time burdened and not have the ability to reach out to everybody that could possibly reach out. So by us going all the way through, we're looking at the first part of October to be done with the fundraising. That'll put everything in motion, and that gives us a lot of time to,
well, and some
while
people,
school is in as well as while it's not.
Some people may want to stretch their donations over a couple of years, depending on tax purposes. And by the way, the Fahey Law Firm is donating all the legal services, so we'll have agreements with regard to all of these donations. And then also Kirk Squires at Central Michigan Graphics is donating all the printing. So we've already, there's a lot of in-kind contributors. So, and TMP did these drawings for us so we could show folks what it's going to look like.
All right, any questions?
I had one question I wanted to ask about I'm back on the banners for the Hall of Heroes for the Your Name. Could it be the Rotary?
Yes. Absolutely.
Or so you could actually have the board.
Could say that.
You could sell it that way too.
It doesn't have to be family. It can be company logo. It could be group or organization. It could be the Hillcrest neighborhood.
We're not selling anything. We're providing the opportunity.
Right.
To be raising the money, politically correct thing.
Yeah. So yes, the answer to your question is yes.
Okay, good.
Just have one thing if I can. It really isn't a question. By the way, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, as does everyone, I'm sure, all the not only the expertise, but your energy. You've convinced me.
It's all it takes.
Sure appreciate that. I guess I want to take the liberty of making one comment, and you don't have to respond, and Jerry Richards can respond if he wants to, but I'm not asking you to. And that is that I just personally hope that some of the fundraising money at least can, if you're as successful as I think you're going to be, that it can actually be enhancing what we're having. I think it would help fundraising efforts if people knew that it's actually going to enhance the library and not just reduce the township's expenditures. If it's all going just to offset what the township is going to spend, otherwise, I would think that you'd get more bang for the buck, more people wanting to give if they know that it's going in there, into the actual library. And like I said, you can comment if you want, but that's just using my soapbox.
We agree, and don't forget, there were 3 other proposals that were turned down because they were a little more expensive, and I'm sure some of those amenities could find their way in if indeed we're successful, and by July, for instance, we know that there's going to be X number of dollars available. Our own budget includes the budget that the 2 of us have worked out includes a very sizable contribution from the township, so we're not looking to let them off the hook at all, but
we talked about
we'll
that.
see. Yeah.
Letting them off the hook.
Thank you.
Any questions?
All right, I want to thank you both for your leadership too, and your enthusiasm. It's terrific. And,
Thanks to all of you for your willingness to do this and your willingness to participate in making Hazlet a much better community. Thank you.
And your open-mindedness to say, yeah, we can do this.
Yeah, it might work.
We can do this. This might work.
I think
Michael?
Melinda, when
We really
you're done
appreciate
here
it.
with the library,
Yes.
we have a school district that
Yeah.
is in need of a great deal of funding as well, so.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Stand in
with
line,
no
Kristen.
strings.
The line form's here.
Thank you, Kristen.
And our 4th presentation this evening is Ann Chapman, the branch head at the Hazlet Public Library. Ann, welcome.
Thank you. I'm usually better at this. I should have gone ahead of Melinda and Andy. Kind of hard to top their presentation. Well, thank you for inviting me. I've been wanting to talk to you and to tell you thank you so very much, really, from all of us at Hazlet Library for making this possible. 3 words figure in every decision that we make at Hazlet Library. And the first 2 are stewardship and service. And your vision and your inclusiveness have eliminated, or will soon eliminate, the 3rd word, and that is space. The Hazlet Library is more than just a book lender. Services and use have grown beyond the existing capacity. And the new facility will finally give us a home that can accommodate the services that we deliver. And we thank you and Meridian Township and our Cattle Library Board for working together, not just for the students and not even just for our community, but for the whole township. And I think you're going to find that this new library is going to be a destination for a lot of people, really the whole area. Mm-hmm. So you're doing a large service to a lot of people. Now, our patrons tend to speak more eloquently than I do about what the library means to Hazlet. So I brought 2 patron comments that I received and an anecdote that the staff shared with me, and I'd like to read those to you. The first one was a written comment card, and it dealt with the location, and it was from a gentleman that uses the library. There are 4 beautiful world-class libraries in our area you can get to by car. Cattle's Downtown Lansing Library, the East Lansing Public Library, Michigan State's Library, and the Library of Michigan. One thing that makes Hazlet special is the fact that so many of us can walk or bike to the library, which functions as a vibrant neighborhood center. Even students whose families live farther out in the township walk to the library after school. The Hazlet Library is one of our best neighbors and keeps our neighborhood vital and alive. So you're allowing us to stay in the neighborhood, and that is so important to our patrons. The second one, also a written comment card by an older gentleman that uses the library. And this one is about space. As the center of reading, learning, and information, the Hazlet Library is the focus of the broader Hazlet community, its schools, churches, apartments, and businesses. The Hazlet Library is a destination for pedestrians, bikers, and automobiles. It is easily accessible and much valued by the community. However, the Hazlet Library is overcrowded, squeezed in by lack of space and the local demand for its wide range of services. And you are helping us with that problem too. And as someone said, it's almost 4 times bigger than our current space, the Meridian High School space. And to let you give you an idea of how our patrons use the library, this is an exchange, and this is an old one, but I have to keep pulling it out because it just it speaks to how our patrons use the library. This was shared with me by a staff member, an exchange between a staff member and a patron that has attended our public computer classes and used our public internet computers. And the staff member said to them, well, you're getting really good on the computer. You're probably ready to have one at home. And the patron responded, I have a computer at home. I don't have a librarian. I have to keep pulling that one out. It's true. It's a true one.
That is good.
So that gives you 3 little snapshots of how the community feels about the library. And I did put together a little fact sheet for you. It's the blue sheet that I asked Mr. Frank to hand out to you, because I don't expect you to know the kinds of services or the volume of business that we do. So you can have a look at that when you get a chance, and it will also really give you an idea and validate the decision that you've made to participate in this project. I did want to tell you about some of the school partnerships, because I'm not sure if you're aware of all that we do with the schools. So I'll start with the most recent one. Well, it's coming up, but back in September, your elementary school media specialists contacted me and said we'd really love to bring children's author Brad Herzog to the schools and the library for March's Reading Month. Do you think we could partner on the cost of that? So I talked to Cattle's marketing department, and last month we signed a contract with Mr. Herzog, and he is coming to Raleigh, Murphy, and a couple of Cattle libraries. And we were able to do that because we partnered. Our Teen Advisory Board, we are in the process of producing our 3rd annual teen literary magazine. I don't know if you've seen these. I'm not going to let you have them tonight because they're cataloged in the Cattle library system and they check out. They're barcoded. Your high school library has these, and the students that contributed have these. And the Friends of the Hazlet Library paid for the publishing of the magazines. We tried, it's just such a great concrete example of what we can accomplish together. And these are original works by Hazlet teens, photography, art, poetry, and prose. And we have been trying to get a teen advisory board together. And when we started working with the high school media specialist and started meeting at both libraries, we started to get a more loyal following, and we're producing something like that. We go to Hazlet High School for 2 days every October during Teen Read Week, and our librarians do book talks to all the freshman English classes. And we give away books that we book talk to those students. We did a Twilight program. I hope you all know what that is. During
That's the time just before dark.
during the high school lunch hour last year. The high school media specialist and I have plans for our new facility. We have always wanted to have the Honor Society students come into our library and tutor after school. We certainly have enough students in the Hazlet Library after school to serve. I don't let space stop much service in our library, but we simply do not have anywhere to do that after school, and we will with this multi-purpose room in the new facility. Another thing, I've been in libraries for 27 years, and this is the first building where I have not been able to do tours of the library for elementary schools. It's just space prohibitive. So we'll be looking forward to doing that in the new building. Our summer reading. This is something that's coming up. We just signed a contract for this. We've just booked the dates. Normally, our staff goes to the elementary schools in Hazlet, and we do skits to kick off summer reading for big school assemblies. And Cattle offered to bring Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter Barbara Bailey Hutchinson in to do summer reading kickoff if the schools would like to do that. So we just completed that contract, and she's coming in May to Ralia and Murphy to kick off summer reading. Our summer reading program had over 800 registered last year. And there's something that I think as a school board that you'd be interested in. A lot of librarians and teachers know about this. It's a Barbara Haynes classic study. It's called Summer Learning and the Effects of Schooling, and it's published by Academic Press. And I'm reading right from the study. They found that more than any other public institution, including the schools, the public library contributed to the intellectual growth of children during the summer. The study estimates that students lose 3 months in reading skills during the summer break and suggests that the loss is cumulative year by year, if not corrected. The research also shows that public library summer reading programs, encouraging and rewarding voluntary reading, are among the most effective tools at preventing this educational loss, more so than attendance at day camp, even more so than summer school programs. So I hope you're feeling very wonderful about your decision because you're affecting the whole community, but you're doing wonderful things for your students, and you're just enhancing a relationship that already exists. So that's pretty much what I have for you. Do you have questions?
Not really a question, but I have to tell you that it's interesting to me that you're thanking us. Because really, with as small a space as you have managed over the years to create a big following and to have a real big impact on Hazlet to the point where I think we should be thrilled that we have the ability to do this, to even step in any small way to help. So
Well,
thank you.
Thanks.
And you might be just as thrilled as the people who are on Extreme Makeover on Sunday evenings. So we might want to get a school bus out there and we can let everybody yell, move that bus, and we'll put your face where they
Don't give Melinda ideas. She might be going to them now for money. Okay. Well,
Yes, and I'd just like to also thank you for coming. I think besides just doing a good thing for the community, it's that synergy with our kids that's within walking distance of 3 of our 5 schools. Like I have to tell you that. but it's just a wonderful opportunity to reinforce our schools and use the libraries for that. And you do a wonderful job for our community and our schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And the first I heard of this idea was from the Kiwanis Club when Don was president, and I was speaking to them about the library at one of their meetings, and they just threw that out, and my reaction was, I wish I'd thought of it. That's where it began for me.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One is, how do you as the librarian feel about managing a library with banners and plaques and trees and bricks and whatever? Is that fine with you? Is that too much noise? Is that how the libraries are going these days?
It's really the trend. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with just about anything that will make this happen. I sat at a conference a few years ago with a member of the Grand Rapids School Board, or Library Board, and I don't know if anyone has visited that library lately, but their main library in downtown Grand Rapids is fabulous. And they did an $8.25 million renovation without one taxpayer dollar.
Wow.
And she told me about all the kinds of things that they did. And I've been in that library, and even down to the chairs, people were able to give a donation that there would be a small plaque on the chairs. So libraries will always be funded by the public. I think more and more the state contribution to our library is becoming the smallest piece of the pie, almost non-existent piece of the pie. It's almost all property tax support, and that will remain. But for special projects like this, yes, I believe it is the trend.
Two other questions. If the fundraising effort were to exceed the commitment that's been made to the township, what are some of the kinds of things that you would love to see added on top of that?
Okay. Well, the reading room, I think, is going to be a really popular space in our library. We have adults that come in every single day and every single evening and read the papers and read the magazines. And they sit in our library, and they sit even after school, and I imagine they come then because maybe that's when they get out of work. And so we will have all the students sitting, taking every single study table and chair and the floor space, and you're still having some grown-ups come in and finding a space among them reading the paper. That reading room will have all of our periodicals in it, and I would love to see some comfy chairs in there. That would be an enhancement. One of our, I would think, most conservative patrons really surprised me. He came in, I asked if he could come in my office. This was just recently, it was last week. And he said, you know, I'm all behind this library move, but I hope you're not, I think you've heard this term before, I've heard it in Meridian Township, but I hope you're not building a Taj Mahal. And I explained to him what Jerry explained to you, that we were given 5 concepts. And to say I didn't look at 3, 4, and 5, I would be lying, because I did peek at those. But I knew we would be working, not with concept 1, because that was no change. And I couldn't promise that I could deliver service out of a building that I knew would not work. So concept 2 was the one we worked with. But he himself said, I hope as the economy improves, that we could have things like other libraries have, like maybe we could have a fireplace. And that set my heart on fire, because I want Hazlitt to feel entitled to that, you know, to things like that. I would like furniture that matched. I would like chairs and tables that came together. So there are lots of
That sounds like there are a lot of things that.
enhancements.
My last question has to do with all the students that come after school, some of whom are not Hazlitt or Meridian Township residents, but are students of our schools. Some of our but again, don't live in Hazlitt. How can we work something out so that they would have privileges at the library as well? If it's in a Hazlitt school building, I think that it'd be hard for us to see our own students not able to have those kinds of privileges in one of our buildings.
Well, there is something in place now for any student. Any child up to age 18 can have what's called a Youth One book card, because we are not in the business of keeping books out of children's hands. And we do have the non-resident fee, which is very common practice for Michigan libraries. But this is for anyone, and the children can check out one book or magazine at a time.
Without a fee?
Without a fee. And then there is a business card, business and institution card, and the Hazlitt Language Arts Department already has one, but institutions can get a card. And one person, one teacher or one department head or principal or however you did it, would be the signer for that card. But anybody that was in possession of the card also would have free privileges.
So if Raleigh principal had one, any teacher, if whether or not they live in Hazlitt, could come in with that card
Absolutely.
and use something.
So there are some things in place already that would work for those students. And then, of course, they can use anything in the library and
Right.
attend any program without a library.
Yeah, I just don't think we'd want to see our students having to pay a fee to use it, even, especially if, as you mentioned, working with our high school media specialist, to see the library as an extension of what she's able to do. If there are things that they're counting on doing in the classroom at the high school that, you know, move to your facility, but, you know, they can't because they live in East Lansing. Oh, thank you.
So, and the students that we have that don't live in the county or that live in East Lansing, they would have to be limited to one book? Do you know if they ever do any workarounds on that?
That would be a question for our board. We could certainly talk about that.
Thank you.
Okay, so Melinda, is this building going to be wireless? Yeah. Okay.
We already have wireless.
No, yeah, and you know, we've talked a little bit about this. I think we talked last time about the potential of it kind of becoming an incubator and getting students over there and thinking big in business and that kind of thing.
A lot of building there. A lot of building there.
Okay.
More questions for Ann? Ann, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you.
It's nice to get to talk to you finally.
Thank you.
Right, it is not our intention to take action on this tonight. At the next board meeting, we will, this will be an action item. Given all the signals from this board, I suspect whatever our action item is, we'll pass it.
Oh, wow.
Wait a second.
Am I getting my head mixed up?
What I'd like to ask for is permission to continue our discussions with Meridian Township to enter into some kind of a lease agreement that would be satisfactory to both the Board of Education as well as Meridian Township. And as Jerry Richards said, I did make the comment that this is a win-win for, I think, the Hazlitt Public Schools, the Hazlitt community, and just the library system at large. There are a number of school districts right now that are facing the prospect of closing buildings. And, you know, we regretfully had to close Meridian High School this past year. But this is an opportunity for us to have and utilize this space for a long period of time. And I think it is a great win-win situation for this community. So we're I am personally very, very thankful to all of you that came here this evening and made a pitch for this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to board reports. Finance and Facilities Committee.
We have not met. I believe we will be scheduling a meeting.
Policy and Personnel Committee.
We have not met either, Rob.
Okay. Items from the board.
I guess I'll do one thing. I guess Andy Such has left, but I would note that the Kiwanis Club did distribute dictionaries to every third grader in our elementary schools, both Raleigh and Murphy. They did that, I believe, finishing up about a week or two ago.
Else? Okay, we have 3 action items before us this evening. Would anybody like to have anything pulled from those action items? A motion to approve the 3 action items, please.
So moved. Support.
Motion and a second. The 3 action items up for approval are approval of the minutes of the January 25th regular board meeting, and 2 tuition release requests. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Announcements, the next meeting of this board will be February 22nd. We will be hearing the results of the survey. We will have a budget discussion, and we'll have at least one action item from you related to the libraries. Okay?
Good.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.